Hello. Welcome. It is time to stream. So, we're going to test some features today. Give people a chance to come in. All right. So, let's take a look at what we're doing today. Right. So, we've got a get work tree issue, and we're going to go through this. What's up, Mark and Andres? Yeah. So, for today, the best thing I can do, I think, is go over open pull requests, give them a test, give them some feedback, see if they work well. If they do my best to give feedback or maybe even merge some of these features. They're pretty good. We've got get root detection, multiple windows for sessions configuration, regular expression for blacklisting, and then this sorting configure is a pretty cool one that I'm excited about. The build command, I think, is going to go away. I don't think that I'm going to let sesh be the one that does this, although I may ultimately maybe spin up another tmux session, or not a session, tmux plugin if people want to borrow this pattern and use it. But I think for now I'm going to probably say prefer this get split into a separate tmux plugin. The tmux plugins bash system is much more simple, and we don't have to deal with what do we have to deal with? We're basically dealing with like output, like terminal commands. It just works. So we're not going to do that. Part of me wants to start here because it's the oldest. Yeah, it's the oldest. It was opened last year and was worked on. So Jesse's a great guy. Maybe I'll ping Jesse over your PR. We'll see if he wants to hang. But I'm buddies with the guy that made this PR, and I helped him with some of this. So we'll take a good look. So basically, I use the .bear syntax, but .get is also a valid syntax. And the idea should be that this still works with both situations, using finding bear, using get convention, using standard work tree, and then the namer package. Seems to be solved. Yes, that's been solved. And we pair programmed. So we did a lot. There was a lot of back and forth. Right. So he can support bare work trees that are using the get syntax. So we'll do what we always do in good code review is just take a scan at this. Cool. And you guys might enjoy watching this. Let's kill this, bring it up. All right, sesh review. I guess all of these need my review technically. Let's see if Copilot is helpful here. Right? I'll let the others just run. I don't know if you guys have tried this yet, but Copilot can now code review. It's like a built-in thing. I have found it to be useful. And I almost wonder if I can automatically assign myself to all pull requests. Can I do that? Rules, moderation options. It's not enabled at work. Yeah. Yeah, we've been using it at work a little bit and it's been pretty good. Okay, well, I'm not going to go down that trail right now. But what should have happened is if I opened that up again, we're going to see needs review, and then we can open it. And I can actually just hit space and it'll check out the branch. Did it not work? Exit. Why is it exiting? Review main. Oh. What is all this? Let's abort. Oh, git merge. Abort. All right. Am I moving too fast for you guys? Let's see. All right. So we got that. And it won't check out. Why won't it check out? I don't understand. Oh, because I'm in the wrong. How did I get here? That won't work. Oh. Let's make sure we get this right. GH dash. Is sesh not mapped? Sesh isn't mapped. All right. Well, there we go. So now when I'm in GH dash, I should be able to hit space. Well, let's get rid of that and redo it. And now it should check it out. There we go. There we go. All right. Weird. And I can open it in Octo and we can look at all what we were just looking at. But what I really want to do is start a review. I'm going to resume a review. All right. I might have to zoom out a little so I can see. Sorry. And that really screws it up, doesn't it? So let's see. What do I actually want to look at? So the sesh CLI has a new git root. Okay. So the path comes from git root, and then we shorten home instead of the namer directly doing it. So did we get rid of namer? We've removed namer in place. So this is the git root command. And then down here, we just do what we always did, right? Oh no. It just returns a value. So I liked the name we're doing this. I don't know why he switched it. Okay. Especially if you're on a computer or something, I can tell. Okay. So this is a good balance. That is good to know. So why are we doing this? Why did this get moved? Get root. Get root. So get root is just, is he swapping out a function? He's not doing show top level anymore. Okay. I think that could work. We'll see. I guess what matters more is that I test it and see if it's working the way that I want. I was actually thinking of making my um, website, turning this into a work tree, not a work tree. Yeah, get work tree. Because some of you were wondering, like, how do you do this and what benefits is it going to give me? And so, yeah, I think it might be fine to show this off. So git clone bear for work tree. I think I can just, let's move this over. The mouse, what is he doing? Why is he using a mouse? Oh my God. Right. So we're just going to call this command. And let's move joshmedeski.com to something like that. You know what's interesting? I just thought of this. What if we get, can I do get sesh clone bear? That would be interesting to add it. To use a bear flag when cloning. Well, interesting idea. I think I'm going to just have that there. So the way this works is, do I have the source code link somewhere? I don't think I do. But my website is open sourced. So if anyone wants to see it and use it, you can, which is kind of cool. So let's get this guy. Bear. So from what I remember, there's a bit to extract here. Oh, it called it get. I personally really like when it gets dropped in a Git repo, like a Git folder. Is the idea that I should probably make better sense of how this works. So if I'm removing Git, I think what we're doing is we're making an empty directory called joshmedeski.com. And then git clone bear this into Git. So the options are you can put it in a .get or you can put it in a .bear is the idea. So now I should be able to add 3JS. And now there's a 3JS folder. Great. So now I should be able to cd into that sesh dot, and I get 3JS because the feature doesn't yet support this. Fine. Review. So if we're going back to this and the code is checked out, why does it keep going into that folder? And we sesh build to that. Our version is that. All right, so then let's just test it. We'll do the same thing we did before. We'll close this. We'll do Josh Radesky 3JS, and we get it. So that's cool that like right out of the box, the feature does what we expect it to. Yeah. Yeah, Mark, you really do. I think it's really beneficial. Maybe it's the time. Maybe now's the time to make an actual YouTube video and get people to look at how I do it, and maybe you can all get something out of it. Andres was with us earlier this week talking about it, and he had the same sentiment where he's like, I would like to figure this out and it would be really beneficial. So I don't know if people would be interested in like a workshop. We could workshop it, or I could just work on making a video. There's a few good videos out there already too. So conceptually, I can definitely explain it. And then in practice, I can show you how it's incredibly useful for me. You feel neutral? Yeah. The moment that you're like, oh my gosh, I need to like upgrade my dependencies to a major version, but I still have bugs and patches to deal with previously. Oh my gosh, our work tree is great, right? Because you're like, the moment that I make this breaking change and upgrade the system, in order to do any future development, I have to downgrade all of that back beyond just a branch switch. If you're just switching branches, great. I don't really care. You can switch branches. What I like the most on top of that is that when let's get rid of that. When I am like sesh main, right? And let's say I'm working on a feature. So specifically, let's just take this project that I'm working on now as an example. Let's say that I want to, I'll go ahead and talk about work trees for a little while. I think it'll be really beneficial. So let's say that I want to work on get root detection logic. Okay, let's just say this is a good idea. What I can do is, and I probably should play around with this more, but basically I have this branch, and I might say sesh main, right? Well, here we are, get work tree add, and we want to say like get root. That's a simple name, right? It's pretty clear what it's for. And so now it's not just this PR, it's any future PRs that are on this work specifically. And so now with sesh, I can, this is where it gets a little bit different. So we're going to go to get root. Why didn't that work? Get work tree, add get root. That is what's supposed to happen. Get work tree, add get root. Oh, I see. I'm dumb. So there you go. This is why I don't usually use these toolings. I have scripts, and maybe we could look at Trigana and play around with that. That's a community made thing. So when I'm in main, I need to remove get root. So what I have intended to do in the near future is have sesh run commands like raycast, which we can talk about. So like instead of having to memorize key bindings or whatever, I'm thinking of adding things like add get work tree, as a command to this thing. And so we could just do that for now. I could show you quickly how I would do that. So we have sesh config, and we could call one called new sesh get work tree, right? And the path is going to be sesh, sesh, and the startup command is going to be get work tree add, and then gum input, right? I think it's just gum input, and then like placeholder. Right. And then we're going to do cd into the name. I don't have to do all that here. Let's just make it. I would make a script. Honestly, I would make a script, which maybe Trigana is the path forward here. But what we should be able to do is call this. It will add that work tree. So sesh work tree. What do I want to call it? I want to call it get root. It's funny. Let's remove it. All right. I didn't remove it the right way. I don't know if I'm convincing anyone that work trees are a good idea. So we'll call it get root. And now it works. And all 4 of those steps could be turned into one. So now what I was thinking was checking out this branch. And this is our get root. And this is conceptually some of the stuff I want to talk about. So when we have work trees, the way that get work trees work is you cannot check out the same branch in different work trees. So I can't check out Jesse's branch in both the review work tree and the work tree that I'm on now. So the way that this has to work is you have to switch back to the review, right? And we have to check this branch into something else. I tend to do something like this. I have these like temp branches, because you can't just switch to main every time, because if you do that all the time, then you're going to run into a problem, right? And so you do have to do that, and then you can now check out what you want to check out. So this is going to work. What I did want to check out, and I haven't figured out, is how to get a list of all changed files from main. It's like name only main thing, right? So what I think would be super cool is how to pipe all of those into NeoVim with xargs. I think I can do it this way. I wouldn't keep work trees around, Mark, for like one branch one time. But conceptually, if I'm thinking, I think of it more like epics in like the programming world, where it's like, hey, I have probably a set of features that need to be done, right? And so you'll see now I've opened all of the files. I've been meaning to kind of play around with this more. So here's all the files, and we have to go mod tidy, I think. I don't think we have to. I think Go is a little bit more friendly here than a node project. But here's what I want to show you and why I like get work trees. And I'm trying to explain this in my next video as I do this. One, sesh, right? So now I have sesh. And everything we see here are areas of focus basically. So main is just the main branch, review is for code review, get root is a specific kind of thing I'm working on. And if I know I'm working on get root, I can just open get root. And what I tend to do is I tend to uh, have that get work tree script, which is probably Trigana. I probably really need to give it a setup now and get it working. Is there's Zoxide, there's a command I use for adding all of the current entries. All of these now got added to get root. They got added to Zoxide. So now I can say I want to specifically go into like get, and I want to take a look at what's going on. So it's really helpful in doing stuff like that. The other thing that's useful, and I don't know if the script I just ran is doing what I thought it was going to do, but the other thing that I like to do, oh, maybe it did work, is my telescope picker will sort by most recently opened. And so if you imagine switching branches, when you switch branches and you pull the file picker up, you're going to get recent files from the other branch because that's just the way this works, right? It's just like any file that gets opened gets sorted in this picker. And I could show you more about that if you're curious, but it's just a smart picker for Telescope. So with work trees, if I'm context switching, I'm not just switching a branch, but I'm switching to a different place on my computer. I now get a much smarter file picker. So now the things I most recently used show up here. And we actually know that, was it that main command, diff main? So I don't know if this command I just ran is the best, but here root, sesh CLI, namer, all of these files are currently the top files here. Really great, really great. And I actually think I'm gonna rip this command here and I'm gonna make this a regular thing. In fact, it could be really useful just to say like, always do this. I could make this my new default command, possibly. The only thing is this ends up opening up all the files that are diffed, right? So if we run it again, yeah, we're going to see all the files now are open for that. But as you actually are developing, it's very useful. What's up, name change? Again? Again, are you going to change your name a third time? That's what I need to know that. And so hopefully, Mark, that's at least a little bit of inspiration, is that combining your smart file picker with your smart session picker, you now can, have more contextual and faster fuzzy finding to get around. And I found it incredibly useful. And now I just fly. I have to think a little bit about the work tree stuff sometimes, and I need to improve my workflow on adding new work trees, or if a branch that I'm trying to check out is already checked out somewhere else, I'd like a smarter way to just swap the other one out and do what I need to do, more efficiently. But that's, as you get better at it, it's easier to grasp. But for me, it's like when I'm working on long-term features, or I know that I'm going to have multiple PRs over many days or weeks of trying to do work, I really enjoy having. So at work, I have monorepo, so it's huge. My monorepo at work is like over a dozen packages now, and there's serverless functions, and there's a web app, and there's a UI component library, and there's all of these things. And so it's easier to contextualize my work. And as I've used them about a year now, I'd say, I'm getting better at sort of coming up with a strategy that is actually useful. So yeah, that's a little bit about Git work trees. I don't tend to set them up very much. So now that we know what we're doing, we can test a little bit more. The thing that made me nervous is there okay, so there is which sesh? So sesh is still the binary. And then if we 3JS, I don't get the root of 3JS. And I do need that to work in order for this feature to work right. So with sesh main, if I'm in sesh main and I do command shift get root, or not get root, sesh root, I really want, so if we go back to main and we make build, I really want to make sure that it is /c sesh and then main, because main is the source code. Sesh is just an empty folder with other projects in it. So the root of the project really needs to be main. So it looks like his isn't right, and I'll have to make a comment on that because I need it to not, the behavior to not change. So I probably need a unit test. When calling sesh root on a work tree, I need the root to be the work tree folder, not the, what is this, the root of the project of the, uh, so we'll just let him know. So you have variables changing name. That's interesting. Good question. Here's our question. When you navigate several branches, do you switch context every time you read a file? Like if I had a direnv, would I change the vars too? I don't have as complicated of a system. I do my best as an efficient employee, right? Or just a worker in general to not be context shifting dramatically all the time, every day. I'll probably context shift 4 or 5 times a day. If I'm working on 3 or 4 tickets throughout the day, or if someone asks me to do code review, I switch to that and I focus on that. So I'm not like often switching between things all the time. I will say though that the most useful thing in the case of like active context switching is if I want to like sesh v1, if I want to look at the old source code for sesh, and there's like this connect command, right? This is like old logic here that's like really helpful, determining the session. If I wanted to read this logic and determine the path and all of this, and on the side, I wanted sesh main, and I wanted to also look at the connect and figure out, how these compare, I like to context switch. So this is a very old branch of the previous version of the project, V1. So to be able to switch between them is so incredibly valuable. Um, and Mark, that might be a helpful thing for you as well. It's like, hey, I need to look at unchanged source code while I change source code. And diffs are good at that, but there's nothing that really beats just having 2 copies of it right there in front of you. And so that's really helpful to me. But good question. I do use direnv sometimes, but very sparingly. I don't I don't have an overly dynamic development workflow, like where things need to be like changing and different, depending on what folder I'm in. But when I do NeoVim configuration stuff, I really like to create a new neovim config, put dir env on that, and tell it to change the nvim app name variable. That's the most common use case I have for switching. And I have like lazy vim config. So here's my lazy vim config. Dir env allow. Oh, it's not even here. So I used to do it in other places. I probably could add one back. I think I deleted and trimmed out all of that access. I had a bunch of nvim configs I was messing with, and I simplified it down a bit. So yeah, so I have to stop there. No, I'm not stopping the stream. I'm just not going to continue looking at that feature right now. This one's really interesting. So he's allowing you to assign windows. So this window needs to do this thing. I like the idea. I think it's really interesting. And then windows becomes an array. And so let me just try this. So let's just kill tmux sesh review. Yeah, I'm still there. I don't know why it was giving me that headache. Multiple windows. So let's check that out. Let's open it in Octo. And we just try it. Although I don't want him to change the go path. But we'll see. We'll see if we keep that in. The model, added window config. This is such a well-written pull request. I love it. Added list of window names to session config. Added an array of windows to sesh session. And then tmux has a new window, adding a new window function. Yeah, because we don't have that yet. Check what windows are configured properly, make a map, set up the sessions, loop over the window names, return the window configuration strut, and then connect. So we loop over the window configurations. We go to the next window. Got it. So there is a tricky thing about doing this. One is like, do we just let other tools do this, like tmuxinator, which is supported? Or do we become more of a session configurator plugin? What do you guys think? I got a few people here still hanging out. So do you like this idea of like, we should make sesh something you can control even more the configuration of the session by doing something like this, like more Windows support? Or do you like the idea of like, let other well-established or just simply a different library be the one that handles this? There's something to the complexity that this adds that I'm a little bit nervous of. Someone loved it. Look at that. Someone loved it. So I said I would go over it in March, and it's April. You use scripts, yeah. So I like scripts too. I think scripts are clear and good enough for the power user to go, this is what I want to do. I'm going to make a script, and it's going to do it. And the idea with the script is the startup command, you can attach the script as a startup command. So there's not a whole lot of overhead here. And this, from what I remember, is linked to 201, and someone else suggested it, and they're going to explore it. So Sebastian made the ticket, and then someone else did some work on it. They didn't even tell me that they wanted to work on it. So there's some level of like, there wasn't much communication here. And that's okay. I mean, it's going to happen sometimes. But he was responsive, so I'm sure he'll be responsive again. It's been a while, though. I feel bad. It's been almost a month. It's been about a month. So we're doing a for loop. without checking for errors. Okay. And then the list config. Why are we doing this? We're mapping windows on the list command. Is that right? Why are we doing this? Okay, maybe a lister config. Oh, config lister. Got it. So if I go to my sesh config and I add a new one, call it Windows, we should be able to make multiple windows, right? Window. It is singular. That's right. Window get, and then get is get pull. And let's try like and lazy get. So that's a new window. And then on a project like Perplexica, let's add that. So we run it and it makes another window. That wasn't a big deal at all. That was actually really simple. And the idea now is it's composable, right? So you have your startup command. If I don't have a startup command, it should use the default. I think he talked about it. I think the more I start digging into this, I actually like the idea of this now. I'm being sold on this already. Okay, so we can disable startup script. What is the startup script? Why are we disabling it? Let's figure that out. Does he talk about it? I guess we'll just read source code. We are devs, aren't we? So that becomes that. That becomes, oh, he calls it a lot, isn't it? So if he doesn't, if it's not disabled, he sends the keys on the new window. Okay. Yeah. And then list config. So now if we sesh list this, do we get, we shouldn't get get, right? So he filters it out. Did I read this right? Connector tmux. Is this a new flag? Disabling it on the new window so that you don't end up in startup script inception. Yeah, perhaps. But if you send keys to a window, you can do that independently of the view. So like in tmux, you can send keys to another window and it works. But is he allowing us to list windows? I just don't know why. Or maybe he's trying to find it. I don't know. This says list configs and then he's doing window logic. I just don't know why it's there. Maybe he uses it somewhere else. Window config. Window configs is something that shows up as a session result. Great. And then he has a new window. Looks, you have a indentation issue here. Please make sure it matches the project. And then maybe I should just ask him why. Why is window logic going in the list config function? Maybe we make a list. Oh, is he having to pipe all of the windows that match into the config? That's what's probably happening. So in order to get the output, we'd want this to be transformed into these values or wherever it is, this guy here. So that transforms into the what gets returned. So when we list configs, we probably do need all of the data. So this ends up growing. The question I have is, does it make sense? It makes sense to move this to the connect step so we're not unnecessarily populating additional data on the list command. Because we could just move the logic and then, because if we list a lot, like let's say sesh list sesh c, let's say like all of them have work tree, not work tree, windows data in them, and some of them have multiple window data, you end up with all of this, what's being passed through the system, but then we don't end up really using it, only sometimes. I guess unless we intend on viewing, it would be very interesting to view the window in like the preview somehow. That could be clever, where it's like, hey, this is a git dev node, work tree. So maybe, but I'm not convinced yet that we would use it right now. And if that is the case, there may be a different strategy where when you pass a certain flag, new window, next window. Yeah, these aren't really alphabetized or anything. I might want to do something to make it a little bit better. So the new window is a starting directory. Can we name things with new window? New window. New window. Environment format window name. Oh, I lost it. No. It's like listed a bunch of times before it ever gets to, here it is. I wanted to copy this, which I guess I'll just rip it. All right. So should we? Right. Next, that's cool. And so all of this is going on, and we need to actually look at, I don't know if I want to do this. So he calls go env go path instead of echoing the shell. Oh, no, that's not what I wanted to do here. I guess it's not a big deal. I'm sure it's going to work the same for people, except for him, because he needed to change it, because I guess his go path is dynamic. I'm not actually sure. I think we talked about it a month ago. This is the connector, right? So we're doing this without error checking. But he does do error checking. I don't understand. Oh, I guess here. I'm not really worried about about that too much. Error handling on that. All right, so let's see. This is list config. So he, for window in config, yeah, connection. See, connection is here. So I know we can find, I'm pretty sure the connection logic finds the connection. If new session, connection session is passed through here, connect to tmux. So it's found first with the determining logic, and then the determining logic passes it through. So that's probably the part where it's like, do we go fetch again, or do we just have list logic always populated? Because it's a trade-off, right? So he's, if not disabling on startup, you send it. Why would you disable on startup and there's no default? Where is it? Window get. Oh, he doesn't have it listed here. Here. When is this used? It's typically the similar field on sessions is helpful to ignore the default startup command, but in this case there is no default command because it's a custom window. Yeah, I don't know about that. I like the feature a lot. I'm excited to move around some of my ideas. In fact, I would go a step further, and I think we're going to work on updating this to have other configs. So I have other configs here, and then I can import more. So I could actually say Windows sesh windows, right? And I can include sesh windows. Yeah, Mark, I guess the idea here is that we could build on top of this feature if we wanted to go the route of we like this idea and it's great and we want it to work this way and we want to support the functionality, right? Because I'm still not completely convinced that I want to do this. I've even suggested it's an exploratory thing originally, right? We followed the lesson, and overall, it's a solid. I guess the idea of I'm putting it all in TOML, and my TOML determines my logic, and I'm able to do what I want to do easily is probably going to expand because I have other ideas. So in that expansion, we'll have to think of windows and panes because let's break it down. Overall, it's a solid idea and simple interface. I'm still hesitant to integrate complicated tooling like this because so many other existing tools already exist, like tmuxinator or even just simple bash scripts that make it more flexible without sesh having to deal with the overhead of bugs and additional features requests like pains. What do you think? Have you tried other tmux project scaffolding tools, and how do you think it continue through the code review? Ooh, fast typer today. Okay. Name, I like your idea. The only thing that happens in projects like this typically is you are complicating the code because this is all pretty tight, complicated logic. We're now complicating that more, adding more logic on top of all of this. So undoing it isn't necessarily simple. And we could make a mistake and we could remove the wrong thing and we could end up breaking a feature on accident. So for me, the risk isn't so much like this is like a side effect. It's more like deeply ingrained in the core logic. So yes, it could be removed, but my expectations are low that in trying to reverse this later, we wouldn't go through our own difficulties of messing something up, or, that can happen. Just being realistic after this many years of development. I've been doing this over a decade now. So I'm like, yeah, it would be fun if it was like decoupled more. So, I'm grateful for the work. So I hope that came across clearly to him. And we're going to see what he says. It took me a little while to get there. Yeah. What are we doing? We're at an hour. Not too bad. He has a temporary session that starts with a EM. Is that a long EM? Long dash? That is a long dash. That's funny. Okay. So let's see. What's up, Jesse? Everybody, Jesse's here. Did you get my code comment, Jesse? Go check your PR. I'm doing PR review today. It's not bad. It's not bad. I just have a feature that's not working the way I intended it to. We have a broken breaking change. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, this is probably a good idea. So we're just doing straight up. We're just straight up doing that. Okay. So he removed creating the blacklist set, and he just has. Why did he remove the function? Why are we not creating the set anymore? What is going on? Why are we dropping the set? I don't know why we're doing this. Conceptually, I like the idea. I do think Copilot's right. I think that there is room for improvement on dropping that. All right. So why is being removed? Don't know. So the set becomes like a list, right? We're not switching to the config is blacklisted For the name, we do a string assertion on the list because the blacklist is a string array. I guess we don't need a map. We don't need a map. Do we need a map or do we need a map? Maybe it's unnecessary. Maybe we overcomplicated it when we set it up. If is not blacklisted, then do thing. Pair concept. Well, it's an open source project name, so every now and then it's okay to like spend my public time in live streaming, looking at community features. It doesn't always need to be the Josh train and you watch me write code every single time. And plus I looked at it up recently. I've logged over 150 hours of live streaming. So we've been going pretty long. So yeah, Sesh is open source. It's part of the community here. So we are definitely group PR reviewing. So I like this a lot. This seems to be fine. And I forget, how does the blacklisting work? It's anytime there's a tmux session that has that. So I guess we'll just see what happens if we use it. So let's check that out. And then this was the lister blacklists. Let's see if Copilot is of any use to us. So we precompile the regular expression patterns, compiles them, returns a slice of compiled regex patterns. If any pattern fails to compute, it returns an error. Yeah. I mean, yeah. So let's see, what does it actually look like? Precompile regex patterns. I don't need to do this on, why would I do this on the lister? Or this needs to be private, doesn't it? So we take the pattern, we compile it, then we append it, and then we do the blacklisting requires compiled reg patterns. No, we don't have to do that. That seems a little bit excessive. Do the compiling from within the file internally and keep the API the same, or the means the I don't, yeah, why would it separate them like that? You could just do it in line. Yeah, compiled. So we make a list. Is this a list? I forget what we call an array, and then we compile it. And if it's a bad pattern, we do that. And then otherwise we append and we do a string match on the compiled pattern. So let's just mention this. I think this is a good idea. Here's a quick sample of what it might look like. Let's be sure to add unit testing to figure out if we, to make sure it's clear when bad regex is used, what happens. To make sure we get expected behavior when a user puts in a bad or rejects. Yeah. But again, this is like someone who says they're not a big Go guy. I'm gonna just comment on this. Probably the map was providing much value. Thanks. Nice work here. We just to make sure the unfamiliar with the patterns. All right. And we have some more time. So let's do configure sorting. I like this one a lot. This is such a good idea. So the idea is I want to change the order in which things are displayed in sesh. So if you're the kind of person that's like, I don't want tmux first, I don't want configs next, I want sockside to be always be second, or I want tmuxinator. This is tmuxinator, right? Yeah. Maybe you want tmuxinator to always be second. Well, that's exactly what you could do here, is you could change it. So if new groups are introduced, it's important to recognize that it would require the user to manually add that to their list. Yes. And typos would potentially cause things to crash. So, yeah, no, this is a cool idea. And it's not too much code. It's only 111 lines, which isn't crazy. I didn't expect it to be a whole lot. Copilot is saying this is not guaranteed to be stable. Right. Okay. Well, that's actually really, really good to know. So let's configure sorting. If you'd like to change the order, you can configure sort order. Yeah. Devin, sometimes. I'm just messing. I know Devin, you guys. What's up, man? We are code reviewing today. This is a very common practice for developers. We like to look at each other's code and make sure that it's solid and have a fresh perspective. And so this is stuff for sesh. It's been good. It's been a good stream so far. You can omit session types if you only care about the order of specific ones. Okay, resulting order. I actually like the idea of that is super interesting. What do you guys think, chat? Do you think the idea of everything that is not in this array should result in, okay, well, we'll just put it first and everything else will go after? That's really clever. That might actually have caused some code complexity. If I was being picky and thinking about keeping it simple, I probably would say if it's not in the sort order, you're not going to get it. However, he is addressing the concern I had, that was if a new item is introduced, that you wouldn't be able to see it if it wasn't in the array, right? So it's probably better to do it this way. I like where he's going here. So he looks up sort order, or looks if there are any items in the sort order, and he determines the sort sourcing. Got it. Great. And then he's got a new lister, list sources. It could be interesting to have the command line actually give us some data here. Omitted elements are placed after the given elements. Duplicate elements are used last most given order. Yeah, I think we would want to verify, validate. I would probably validate this. And if you have more than one in there, I want to throw an error that says you've messed up. You're not supposed to do this. All right. Well, let's see, because he's solving a lot of problems here with this code. So it makes a list, the get order. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, this is fine. It's not crazy. He does test it. So when he types this in, he gets this out. So he's taking sources and he's mapping them through. Thanks for coming in, Name. It was fun hanging out, man. Have a good night, day, evening, morning, wherever you are. So Devin, you're only vibe coding now? Is that your strategy? I can't imagine vibe debugging is useful to anyone if they are debugging with AI only. Because like we like to debug by adding print statements and breakpoints and executing code in a certain way. But if you can only get the, you have to be really specific with the language models, I bet, in order to get them to debug your code correctly. This is really clear. This is like super helpful. So he's saying anytime I move any of these, we're going to get all these rules, and this is the output. And then he just tests them. Yeah, this is a great test. No, this is a great idea, the way he's implemented it. And if we don't love the idea, we could create breaking changes for this one. It's just going to be this one feature. So we were talking earlier about this, where like I want, how does he actually implement it on the list? Yeah. So the lister does this. Let's try it. So I think that'll be more fun if we can see it in action. So here's our list, and then sesh config. What is it called? Sources. So I might do this. This might be what I'm doing. So let's try it. We should be able to list, and it's the same. Is it just sort order? Oh, I didn't check it out. No, did I check it out? No. That might help, chat. There we go. Excuse me. I'm getting sniffly right now. All right, now it worked. There we go. Cool. I could actually see myself experimenting with all of these. I'd actually love to play around with this. Chain, nice. I think I could see myself doing this more. So tmux config. The only thing that becomes a problem, tmux, I'm dumb, tmux config, is I would expect the config to show up and it doesn't, right? Config. So the problem now is this is like all of my things, and it's going to be a lot. I mean, that's the point of sesh. So why, when this was here, did it not update? Sesh list C. Sesh list CZT. TZC. So it's working. But I don't get, well, sesh config is already there. Neovim config, Perplexica. Oh, I know what it is. So we have a feature that allows us to ignore duplicate sessions. How does this one work? Hide duplicates. So now if I put configs last, they'll always show up in a way that's hilarious, that I just won't be able to deal with. Okay, so this is where this kind of tooling becomes incredibly useful. Incredibly useful. Instead of having to do this and this, where I have get root, which is an alternative. Let's go back to sesh. Sesh review. So here is sesh in its infancy and how it just works by default. I could actually say that I want this root command to list all of the sesh root, anything that shows up under that path could be its own source technically, right? Which is probably sesh main. This one's better. So I could have all of these tmux convert, all of these here could technically show up below this guy. I could have all those show up, or maybe right after Astro, like all of those could show up. So that's an interesting idea. What I was going to do next is come up with like this new window. Let's just try it. I'm not even going to go through this. I don't think it's worth trying to show you guys, but the idea is in the same way that Raycast lets me like, manage downloads and like take actions. What I kind of want to do, experiment with in the near future, is can sesh like split window, and when you do that, it splits the window, right? Or if I want to say kill server, could I just kill server? Now, really, all of that comes down to, what is it, man? tmux is taking all of these commands and allowing it. Detach client, lock session, interesting, new session, refresh client, rename session. Like literally any of these could be turned into things that show up in your sesh command bar, like make it more operating system heavy. And maybe even NeoVim stuff, maybe, but I get a little bit hesitant to try to mix stuff like this. I really like this commands thing. And so there could be a way to pipe all the commands here. I could even put my file picker within sesh, But again, I don't want to overcomplicate it. I like sesh being simple in that it's really good at switching between sessions. That's its sole purpose. You have a key bindings attached to it, and it just works. So I like this a lot. This is a very cool feature. It's really simple. It's not a lot of code. I think the most amount of code is the documentation. So it does say, can you please look over this and see if there's any predictable behavior. Looks like your unit tests are good. I don't have much. There isn't. Please ensure. Yeah. And then we're going to verify the Copilot thing. Did we talk about this? Yeah. And then, so helpful. So I guess this is fine until we add a new one. Then it becomes a make the language model do it kind of behavior, but like you got to add it to every instance. I kind of want to see what this looks like. Oh, what was it? Source test. There we go. Yeah, it formats really nicely here. So it cleans duplicates. So I almost want to know, like, I actually want to lean on the side of causing an error if the user misconfigures. Complexity for the sake of silencing a mistake. Wait, hold on. I'd prefer to keep the logic more simple. I probably should. Yeah, I can show you, Jesse, how I use it. All right, let's do it here. Let's do sort func, sort order. We map, we get, we how is it removing? All right. So let me make sure I get it right. We sort sources. So it's a map. So I guess it's not a big deal. We're mapping, and if that repeats itself, it's going to attach to the same mapping. So this gets the order, it returns it, and then the slicing is the sort function. Why are we doing all this? So we're generating a map. Well, that's just sources. This is sort sources. How does he call it? Now I'm not realizing where sources is called. Here it is. Lister list. Wait, so sort order comes from where? It's a config. Lister config calls it. And then lister list. Yeah. Interesting. Sort sources. So in his lister list, he sorts sources. And then he goes through the sort ordered index. Sort order. I don't understand. This is returning or transforming for all my Go devs out there. What they're saying is that this is changing one of these two values. I guess we got to look at the code. It doesn't return anything. It takes sources and it does this slices sort function. Is that what's going on? So is this, well, why is it? Is this code changing? Yes, it's a modification. Modifies the source of slice in place. I am not a fan of that. I'm a functional guy, so I'm a little nervous to see that this let's go back. Go back. This makes me nervous. This seems isn't very clear. It's not very clear that this is going to change transform more clear here that we reassign it to a new variable, perhaps. So the sort order is this, and then it changes. So we do all that work, fine. He's going to read the code, and I say it's going to read the code, and then there's a copy. Now, sources, sorting index, or I love that autocomplete is in here. You guys can't see it, can you? It's behind my head. If I ask for sources, sorting index, I'm getting language from my code base and it's showing up as autocomplete within the Avante chat window. Super helpful. This is Blink, by the way. We're using Blink now. So just kind of a cool thing that it gives me autocomplete so I can mention things more clearly. All right. Let's just see if some basic language will. I think I'd prefer this because I don't like that it reads in a way that transforms it without the user actually knowing that that's what's happening. So that's what I have to say about that. We're removing that. We're doing that. I love this. I think there's some really cool features that I want to do. And then Jesse, I need to tell you about how I use getRoot. So we're going to request changes. Great. Just a few minor adjustments. And where did and it's go. That was probably the easiest one. And almost the least amount. Maybe the blacklist one was a little bit less. All right, Jesse. So let me get back to you on this, man. I really like using work trees to get stuff done. So like I have sesh main and sesh review, right? So I'll have two work trees, right? So there's a main work tree and there's a review work tree. When I'm in one of those work tree, I personally like the idea that the root is the root of the file tree of the system of the actual project, not the empty folder that holds all of the projects. That's not the point of my development workflow. So when I'm in review and I want to look at well, this is going to be a bad example. When I'm in main, I want to switch to a different part of the project by creating a sub I want to create a sub, what do I call this? Like a nested session. They're not technically nested, but you get my idea. It's like an additional session on top. So if I wanted to go to the CLI here of sesh main, I can do that. And if I want to go to the tmux of main, I can do that. And so I personally that's how I use it. So if we go to my website, right, and we have Three.js, and then we connect to Three.js. Now, when I'm here, well, we need to sesh. Let's do this socks side here. Cool. Yeah, so give it a fix and I'll take a look at the code again. There is quite a bit going on, so I have to try to figure out the best strategy for bringing this in. I know you had removed some stuff, so since you're here, I can just ask you. I saw that you had like removed I think you explained it in the PR. You removed the show top level. So that's going away. You just don't like that strategy anymore, I'm guessing. And then your new get root. So in my mind, originally, the get package is doing get commands. And you've transformed this to be get root is a ethereal concept that is go run get commands and figure out root. And so for me, show top level and get common dir were just top level functions that are mapped one-to-one on the package. So in here, I'd imagine some sort of, you know, work tree list command might be here. And then, but I guess the bigger question is, okay, if that's the case, then where are we doing this logic that determines the bare position or looks for the suffix and then returns the thing? And that is more of a determining logic. So where did we actually do that? We showed the top level in the review. So the namer, then the get namer is the one that's determining the logic. So the get package is meant just to do get commands, and then the lister for get, where did it go? I just had it. Namer. So namer go is one of the ones that goes, hey, give me this, give me that, determine what's going on, return the thing, return the name. So I can give you that feedback now. Let's keep the get package clean and simply add a work tree list command here, then do the determining of the name logic, determine the name in the, what do we call this? In namer get. So something like that would be helpful. And then all that logic lives in a place where we do logic. And then our unit tests are a little bit more clear in that, hey, we're trying to name something. Give me the name, and we can mock. This is good, though. This is great. I'm glad that we can mock this stuff. So this will be some sort of mock shell on list work tree. Return this. So your unit tests actually become simpler as well, because we're just like, hey, when we mock the get, this is what comes out, versus having to actually mock every single piece of this. I'm sure this was a lot more work for you to have to go through all this. So it should simplify the testing, make it a little bit less about get and more about the get package will do something. No, but this is good, man. This is fairly clear. I get that this get name and get bare name, it might feel similar again doing that this way. And then a lot of this was fairly clear. And then we had to add dependencies. So this is where it becomes simpler. I think this becomes simpler. This stays to name with my request to move the logic of determining the name in the namer package, we can reverse this change. So namer should be the one that does the naming. We don't need to pass get and home into this in order to do the work, because you're now shortening home from get root. Yeah, so there's a lot happening here. We don't need to add this complexity, so we'll simplify it. Yeah, and then this all just gets reversed. So you won't need to pass in a completely different set of dependencies to get root to work. Namer probably will evolve over time. We'll do more with namer. So the idea is this is a protected dependency injection pattern, and we want to extend versus overwrite or break. So that's kind of what happened here is we overwrote and broke the pattern versus just let's keep using namer. So there you go. There's some feedback on where we want the logic to live. Nice work overall. All right. You get the hearts. You get the hearts, Jesse. I appreciate all your hard work, man. It's always tough sometimes to keep coming back to something that's kind of old. I know we've been going back and forth for quite some time. So we'll get there. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's intentional of how I've designed the system, but I haven't necessarily discussed dependency injection patterns with contributors, right? It's like that's a big thing. We had a discussion with a couple of the community members this week. I think you missed it, but I mentioned it in the Discord. And we talked for a whole hour about this stuff. And I made a lot of notes and I recorded the video. So I'll probably be collecting that into a contributions file and making sure people are clear about some of that stuff. Root thing 2 messages up. Yeah, sure. Let's look at it. Pull requests, root 2 messages up before Copilot, TLDR. Just send me a link on Discord and I'll open the link. But yeah, just click on the date here of the comment you want me to see and I'll load it. Cool. Now this is good. And this is version 2 of Sesh. So I've gone through a lot of headache and trouble trying to get the dependency injection right because it's so convoluted. Oh, your comment's in here. Yeah. Okay, I got you. So I do this with a custom session right now. I guess I wouldn't call it root. I guess it's a semantic problem, but the root of the get bear work tree is something else in my mind. It's like a get root dash dash bear. What do you think of bear? This isn't the craziest idea. This could work. Because the bear top level isn't really anything. It's empty. All it serves is a place to hold get data. It doesn't actually host. In my mind, I think you're understanding me. I think you're understanding me. But the root is the root of the project, and if it's empty, there's no project there. Like that's not the root, and it's just a semantic thing. I get it, but maybe this sesh root bear makes sense. So if you are trying to do that, so this is what I do. I have a new work tree. New work tree. What is going on? Is my config like not even there? Did I like break the feature? I need to check this because that's not good if it's not loading anything. There we go. So I have this picker called pick work tree, and it opens up a proxy session that says, okay, great. Which session do you want to pick? And I pick the one here that I want to pick, right? So I go through here and I choose like, I want TS latest, please. And it pulls up TS latest. So that one's helpful. And I was going to work out a way to turn this into some sort of custom session configuration that you can say, hey, in this place on my computer, do this. And so, yeah, that looks like this work tree. So I'm doing a quick little find max depth one type D. So these return all the folders, and then fuzzy. It's a fuzzy picker using gum. It says, "Hey, pick this thing," and so when it picks it, it connects it to sesh, and then this session kills itself with an exit. So this is a pattern I really like. I'm thinking of introducing it in another way to people because I use it for lots of places. I use it for plugins typically. So like tmux plugins, 3JS. I'm going through a 3JS journey. I'm going through a course right now. And so when I do 3JS, it pulls up folders of every lesson. So this is every lesson so far that I've worked. And I did the coffee one recently. So if I type coffee, it opens up that project and the 3JS project goes away. So the 3JS project doesn't exist anymore. It is a separate PR. Let's call root the where the source code lives, not where any bare work tree stuff exists. So we'll simplify that. But remember, it comes down to the naming. So the naming is done a certain way, and then yeah, the name is still requiring the git root, but the folder that holds the source code is part of the end of the name. And that's the way it worked previously. We'll add unit tests so that this is clear. Because if I had had a unit test there already, you would have had to have changed a unit test in order to change behavior. So that's a good idea that we do have a test for it. So maybe I'll add a unit test, or I can DM you and we can meet and we can have another coding session together if you'd like. I'm happy to do that, especially trying to reverse dependency injection stuff. It might be a little tricky on your own. So, and that's true for any of my community members. At this point in my stage in being a content creator, I'm available to give some people personal time, and I enjoy doing that. So if you're not already part of the Discord server, you can just go to my website, joshverdesky.com, and just click on this little Discord button. Where is it here? Oh, you can't see. I can't reach that high. Up there. Click on that, and it'll take you into the Discord server. We talk about tmux, we talk about sesh, we talk about NeoVim and macOS, and I'm into 3D printing. I got some 3D printing parts that I'm working on right now. I'm learning 3D modeling right now just for fun on the side. And so lots of different topics, mostly nerdy developer terminal-based stuff. But I always appreciate the conversations that we have there. And I did make a YouTube video recently that I'll shout out before I go. You can see what my YouTube feed looks like. Quick, take your screenshots. That's not it. We don't need to be there. I should just have it bookmarked, shouldn't I? So I made a video on, hey, look, I'm wearing a different shirt. This one's about the sesh last command. So there's a little tip for you. This is I made my favorite feature better. This is the sesh last command, which I wanted a dedicated video for. It's only 5 minutes, and it seems to be helpful to me. And so hopefully others can implement it, because you do have to add it to your configuration in order for it to be useful. Yeah, this is fun. Thanks for hanging out today. Thanks for watching me do some code review and look over the project. And we didn't merge anything today, so we got some feedback. I don't think I'll do this every time. I'll probably build a feature out next time we're together. I might even play around with 3JS stuff on stream. It could be fun. Some 3D modeling, some 3D animations, or we'll see. We'll see where I go with all of this. I was joking about vibe coding, but I'm not convinced that I would have a good time doing that. I think it would drive me crazy. And so we'll see where all that goes. But thanks everyone for being here, and I'll see you next week. Bye.